Welcome back everyone to the channel. How you guys doing? We are going to talk about Mousetrap. Arguably probably the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Not really, but it's really close. I've seen a lot of bad movies, but Mousetrap might be really close being in like the top 5 worst movies I've ever seen. Now, this is just, you could tell this was just a quick movie to make a quick buck because Steamboat Willie was like unlicensed, well, became public domain. So they're like, we need to make a movie. And you could tell this is a really bad movie. It's not fun bad either, it's just bad. So to me, I'm like, well, am I gonna review it? Am I gonna talk about it? Yeah, I'm gonna do that because yeah, this is a really bad movie. The moment I saw the title cards, they did like a Star Wars version of just talking about all the copyrights and all this crap about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a bad movie. I immediately knew that, and just everything about it, the dialogue is really bad, the kills are really bad, and oh my gosh, the child acting right off the get-go was already just bad. You could just tell, yeah, this is gonna be a rough movie.
No way!
I was trying to figure out what is some good things about it. The good thing about this whole movie was when it ended. That was probably the best part. I was like, wow, this was great. And it's actually kind of long. It's like an hour-and-a-half long movie. And it's like, why? You have a main cast of characters that are just hanging out in a arcade because it was one chick's birthday or something. But the whole point of this movie is they're doing a flashback of it because the final girl is telling what happens through this whole thing. And the weird part about all of that too is the final girl has like no emotion at all. She's not crying. She doesn't show anything that like, wow, I just saw my friends get butchered. And she's just stone cold, and she's like sarcastic to the cops, and I'm like, what are you on? I get it, because she is like the main target, like because everyone just assumes she's the one that murdered them all. Makes sense. But it's like, it blows my mind how much this movie makes no sense, because like I said, I feel like if I was in that scenario, hopefully I never am, but if I'm like the final guy, right, and I just saw 8 of my friends, all my close friends, get just butchered by a man wearing a mouse mask. We'll talk about that in a moment. I feel like I would be emotionally a little disturbed for one, and two, I feel like there's no way I'd be so stone cold. It just kind of just tells the audience, yeah, she probably did it. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those kind of scenarios. And I think I'm just thinking way too deep about this whole movie.
That's it.
I have to talk about this now. I have to. But oh my gosh, they did the Mickey Mouse thing where, if you guys ever remember Spider-Man 1 with the Green Goblin, where the Green Goblin's like talking to Norman Osborn the whole time, and you just hear his creepy laugh, like, ha, 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 like that. You're like, the whole time, you're just like, all right, this is kind of cool, because the Goblin is like talking to Norman and like manipulating him. That happens in this movie, like right off the rip. The owner of it goes into his random room with like the Mickey Mouse mask, Steamboat Willie's mask, whatever, I don't care. It's like in a glass thing, and he starts playing on a projector and like an old tape of Steamboat Willie. And then all of a sudden, he starts hearing a voice, and his voice is like talking to him. And I'm just like, what is going on in this movie, dude? This is Green Goblin level, except just trash. It's really bad. And I just didn't understand it. So there's a point where they're trying to do like the Scream thing, like who done it, who is the murderer, but you as a viewer know. But they're trying to like trick you into thinking, like the audience, like as like the group is trying to figure out who's the killer. And there's this guy, typical douchebag in a movie where it's like early 2000s horror movies, or even just basically any horror movie that's before like 2010, I feel like. He's wearing a hockey jersey, and he's like on the hockey team, and there's like a subplot where like there's like hockey players and everything. That goes nowhere because Mickey just shows up and just kills them all, and then he goes back to the arcade. Anyways, that doesn't make any sense to me. But they're trying to do the whodunit thing with the cast, or like trying to figure out, oh, maybe it was him the whole time because he's wearing a jersey. But you could definitely tell it was not him, because the guy who's playing Mickey is definitely a little heavier than the douchebag guy, and the douchebag guy is taller. Like, he's a taller, thinner dude compared to the shorter, stockier, heavier guy. So to me, that's pretty clear. And then they're doing a thing where it's like, oh, maybe it's all of them.
At some point, I think there's a threshold that gets crossed where something becomes so bad it should almost be illegal.
Because he teleports. And I'm like, what is this, Friday the 13th? Like, what the hell's going on in this movie? And the only way to defeat Mickey is strobe lights, which is just like, oh, okay. And they push him with a chair, and he's just like sitting there, and they just flash him in the face with a strobe light. And I'm like, oh, okay. And guess what? He disappears because the strobe light like dies out or something, and then he just disappears. Literally teleports. I'm like, oh my god, this is so stupid. The whole movie is just really, really bad. Now, if I had to give a rating, I think on Letterboxd, follow me on Letterboxd if you guys want. It's just called The Real Zach. That'd be awesome. I give it like a 1 out of 5 because I thought the movie was absolute garbage. Usually, I haven't rated a movie that low in a long time. The reason why I gave it a 1 star because I thought it was somewhat kind of funny in some scenes because it was just absolutely stupid. There's just a lot with this movie. I just was like, what in God's name? Like I said, they have this big cast of characters, and they're trying to do like romantic subplots. In the scene where the final girl is now just sitting in the jail cell, and then like the police are like asking her all these questions. They're like, what is this? A 90s subplot? They like to reference a lot of things from the 90s in this movie, and it just does not gel well. That's how you know it's a bad movie, is when they start talking about these little subplots and like little like, hey, look at this in the movie. Now, I feel like a movie could do a really good job at just showing you and not telling you things. Like if you're watching, I don't know, Stranger Things. And the Stranger Things is really good at doing nostalgia pulls. You know it's in the 80s, but they don't really tell you it's in the 80s. You kind of just look at it, you're like, yeah, this is the 80s. But this is like, oh, that's from the 90s. That's a 90s subplot in this movie that's out now. It's like, oh my god. So you have a lot of those things, and you can definitely tell like they're trying to rip off things from like Friday the 13th, Scream, and it's just not good because it's just a bad movie. I feel like this movie actually could have been probably decent if it wasn't so cheap and it's just not a god-awful movie. But in general, I gave it like a 1 out of 5. If I had to rate it out of 10, it'd probably be a 2 out of 10. But this movie was awful. If you guys want to have a good time, I would not recommend this movie because it's just not funny anyways. So yeah, what do you guys think about Mousetrap? If you have seen it already, let me know down below. If you haven't seen it, are you guys gonna watch it? If you do watch it, let me know how awful it is after you are done. It's on Amazon currently. That's the only reason why I watched it. And of course, stay safe, everyone.